Okay, we are live. Welcome everybody to this panel. I would like to introduce you to Andréa Lauermann, Alexandre, Berndt, if you can say hi when I say the name, and Michael Stanley-Jones. We're here to have a good conversation around ESG, social inclusion, carbon footprint, and energy. All areas of interest around the world, and that will be a panel themselves too. So we will have a hard time to try to touch all of the areas in just an hour. Well, I will first let each one of the panelists talk a little bit about what your projects or your areas of expertise are or were, and the relationship with the title of this panel. And then we will jump into a hopefully interesting conversation and see if we can get to some good conclusions and interaction with the public. So Michael Stanley-Jones, you're free to talk and give us your intro.
Thank you, Eduardo. Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. I'm coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya, so you can see it's nighttime behind me. I'm with the United Nations Environment Program, working out of headquarters, working out of my home office, as you can see, near headquarters here in Nairobi. And I'm with the Ecosystems Integration Branch, which is the newest branch of the United Nations Environment Program. We were created on the 1st of March last year, so we're brand spanking new. And integration is about bringing together complex themes that we work on across the house, like addressing natural resource management for poverty elimination, or addressing the gender nexus with poverty. And these are perhaps not the most traditional themes people associate with the United Nations Environment Program, but the integration branch works through partnerships and brings together different disciplines, kind of interdisciplinary branch, if you will, and tries to synergize the efforts of our organization, working also with other UN partners and stakeholders. So let me just by way of introduction say a little bit about my background. I have a California accent. I hope I still have a trace of a California accent. I'm from Silicon Valley. I grew up in Cupertino, California, where Apple is now headquartered. It was born there while I was still a high school student. And I worked on issues related to community right to know, particularly in the water sector, in watershed management, in water quality, drinking water quality, and also protection of riparian and estuarine environments and the oceans. So what did I learn from Silicon Valley? I learned that technology is a powerful force for enabling the public to discover information and to gain insights into governance through the tools that were being developed and the technologies like simple things like Google search engine when it was born in the 1990s, late 1990s in beta, or GIS, learning how to map and visualize things, learning how to use the web to communicate. These were things, skills that I brought to the United Nations originally as an expert advisor, and then later in 2003 at the World Summit for Information Society, I was recruited to be the Access for Information Officer to a new legal instrument, the Aarhus Convention, the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, Convention on Access to Information, Public Participation in Decision-Making, and Access to Justice in Environmental Matters. It's 27 words long. So we call it the Aarhus Convention, where it was signed in 1998. And that convention was built off of Principle 10 of the Rio Declaration from 1992. It was the pan-European transposition of the values, the Principle 10 values that carried over into a legally binding instrument that governments from principally the European Union countries, but also Central Asia and the Caucasus all joined in the early days of that instrument. And as Access to Information Officer, I helped deploy technologies to communicate with the public. So social inclusion is one of our themes today. Also, environment, social, and governance, which we call in our organization environment and social sustainability safeguards. We have a framework at UNEP. We've just revised it. So those are very, very much living topics. We've also seen the Aarhus Convention's principles spread globally. So Principle 10 has a new agreement in Latin American Caribbean region that government signed on to about 2 years ago, I believe. And although they may not be all treaties, they're not part of treaty law, they certainly are drawing from this tradition that started in 1992 with the Rio Declaration. I've been working, and I'll close with this, I've been working on two themes most of this year. One is to look at small island developing states and how they can employ digital tools and build robust environmental data sets to support their efforts to achieve sustainable development, to implement the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The other is my passion working with the fashion community and looking at how new technologies like blockchain can be applied to build out a more sustainable fashion sector. I'll stop there and cede the floor, but I'll be happy to discuss all of these topics in the next round. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael, for that intro. Interesting background. Well, let's follow with Alexandre Berndt. Alexandre, welcome.
Thank you. I am Alexandre Berndt, researcher at EMBRAPA Brazil. EMBRAPA is the Brazilian National Research Center for Agriculture. I'd like to thank the organizing committee for the invitation to this panel. And I would like to bring here to the discussion and provoke a reflection on how digital transformation can help a real case of food production. That is the main area of research in EMBRAPA. I think we all agree that the COVID-19 has profoundly changed our lives and made societies recover values related to well-being and quality of life. That means healthy eating and the environment are priorities for most of the society, most of the planet. And there are several initiatives to discuss sustainable food production, including FAO, Global Agenda for Sustainable Livestock, that include different entities representing industry, science, government, and society to discuss global concepts for the trajectory to net zero carbon. The net zero carbon is a target, and to reach it, you have a trajectory, a path to walk through. And agriculture is not different. Agriculture also seeks technologies to increase the ambition towards net zero. And dairy farming is not different. And we've been studying a lot of research, studying a lot of production systems, and we found that there is a potential to explore environmental services, especially in the tropical and subtropical regions, and this includes also carbon removal or decarbonization, mainly in the soils and in the trees. So our research results published in international journals, they indicate that the intensification of production systems can reduce emission intensity. And emission intensity means how much CO2 equivalent we are emitting to produce 1 kilo of milk, meat, or vegetables, or whatever. So it's always related, it always relates the emission with the production. This is a nice index. And this intensification, however, has a limit to be sustainable. And the key to the success of the production systems is the adoption of the most appropriate technologies to that precise production system. But as a consumer, do the sustainable production system guarantee a sustainable product in my fridge? I think that here comes the digital technologies to help the real production. The milk production chain is complex, and what doubts should have a conscious consumer have? What solutions could the digital transformation bring? First of all, the production, in this case, I'm bringing the dairy production, the milk production, happens in a farm. And okay, so we know that we can produce in a sustainable manner in a farm, removing carbon in the soils, etc. But how can I prove that this product is really in all the chain is not losing this benefit of low carbon production? So we can I really know and check that cows are really raised in a low carbon environment? How can the technology help there? Do I need individual tags, animal tags connected to satellites and GPS to have their exactly position along the life or the production system, the production cycle? If I in the milking parlor, it's the place where cows are milked, how can I guarantee that cows are not mixed and I'm not mixing regular milk with low carbon milk? How to segregate these products? Also, during milk collection, usually there's a big truck that collects milk in the neighborhood in a big truck and takes all this milk to the industry. How can I segregate the low carbon milk that is in that truck? How can I have this traceability? And the same while processing, packaging, and distributing, is the label correct? Is this really the milk that came from that farm that was applying sustainable technologies? So as a conscious consumer, can I trust the label and the process? And is my consciousness distributed along the value chain and reached the farmer? That is the first elo of the chain. Can these technological solutions be certification, MRV processes, or a blockchain system there? So how can we work together? Dairy value chain is complex and responsible for economic, social, and environmental stability in several countries. And digital transformation can bring solutions and create business opportunities in these important food production chain. So these are my first ideas to enrich the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandre. Good insights, and I'm pretty sure we will continue to talk about that. Andrea, please introduce yourself and get us some humanity in this panel. Thanks.
My name is Andréa Lauermann, and I'm very happy to be here and talk about people with disabilities and social inclusion, since these people are treated as invisible. I live in Guaratinguetá, which is a city located between São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. I'm the coordinator of the Lucas Amoroso Institute, a non-governmental organization that is a reference for surround seats in terms of people with disabilities. We have been attending families since 2006. Now we assist 83 families, and our youngest individual is a baby, is a 1 year old baby with a heart syndrome called Lowe syndrome, and the oldest is 43 years old adult with Down syndrome. Unfortunately, we have 76 families on a waiting list for treatment. And that list are aged from 3 to 39 years old and have all different kinds of disabilities. Lucas Amoroso Institute works towards social inclusion and the guarantee of rights. We can state that in the current scenario, after COVID-19, digital inclusion is as important as social inclusion, since the online world brought people together, building up and maintaining social relationships. According to the last data from IBGE, the Brazilian Institute of Geographic and Statistics, it's known that each citizen in Brazil has at least one cell phone. But among our public, the reality is a bit different. There is one cell phone per family, and each family has up to 4 members. This one device is used to connect to all the apps, such as education ones, banks, and to perform all digital activities, like video calls and long-distance communication. Some of these families still reside in the reality of prepaid internet plans, and some cases in the rural areas, it's necessary to leave the house to get signal. Another situation that makes this type of inclusion harder is the low level of literacy and digital knowledge, which makes it difficult to use different applications. Therefore, we understand that the possibility of launching an application that has a social and territorial marker would facilitate the inclusion and the life quality of these people. Promoting, for example, carpooling, loan of wheelchairs, exchanging caregivers, chats, easier access, the use of the internet. So, I think we can introduce our conversation.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. Well, I'll give a little intro myself. I'm the CEO, Eduardo Muñoz. I'm the CEO of EVShare Foundation. We've been working for the last 4 years as a foundation to promote decarbonization in urban environments by the integration of electric vehicle fleets and microgrids, bringing what we call the future of energy communities. We believe in the decentralization of energy and mobility sectors towards decarbonization in urban environments, and we're working on that in California, Brazil, and Europe. With different type of projects, like, for example, a very iconic project we're following right now, which is a taxi service with electric vehicles in Belém city, in the north of Brazil, in the Amazon region. So it's iconic that we are creating, in a decentralized way, a mobility application that issues blockchain carbon credits with the emissions reductions we produce in the heart of the Amazon region, and creating maybe the biggest electric vehicle fleet outside of China in the world, where we were supposed not to be able to. So the thing is that what we believe is that technology we have today, creativity, and on top of that, goodwill will take us to where we want to go. But we need to start being a little bit less selfish. So one of the worries we are addressing is the lack of connection between ESG, climate change funds, and real projects that really bring solutions on the decarbonization side of the equation. We have a very inefficient connectivity today with old financial structures that try to manage and these funds in a way they were able to do it in the old way by having some conventional warrants and structures and contracts and stuff that doesn't work if we want to make this happen in the time we have to happen. So what we are really working on is on bringing connectivity and renewable energy as a means of giving freedom to people that don't have, as they don't have the ability of move in a very convenient way, low cost, and with a zero footprint. So we believe on the access of energy and communication being tools to create a better world, and that's part of what our developments are around. And having said that, I would like to ask you guys, and in the same order, how do you think, being that the social inclusion, carbon footprint, and energy is part of our titles in the panel, how do you think that the access to connectivity and the access to renewable energy or a greener, cheaper energy will help you guys to achieve your objectives in your projects? Starting with Michael, please.
I would begin by criticizing the very project that the United Nations is mandated to implement, and it's friendly criticism. It's the Sustainable Development Agenda, the 2030 Agenda, that was adopted in 2015, and it's 17 Sustainable Development Goals. At my organization, UNEP, we have just adopted a medium-term strategy for 2022 to 2025, and it has one new area in our program of work, digital transformation. And the group of digital champions at UNEP that is in dialogue on how we will implement this new program of work has pointed out that the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, lack language to support access to the internet. The digital revolution passed by the SDGs, even though in 2015 we could see it coming. It had been coming for more than a decade, for decades. But still, there's hardly a reflection in the 2030 agenda of the digital agenda of the 21st century. So some have advocated there needs to be an 18th Sustainable Development Goal, because access to digital technology, the internet, and other technologies that are built off of the internet or built with the internet is a means, an enabling means of achieving across the board the goals that are set out in that agenda. So when you speak of access to energy, access to water, we could speak of access to mobility, access to information, my field. All of these are enabled through digital technologies. Digital transformation is opening up new horizons of possibility for us to distribute these social and technological benefits in ways that they have never been distributed before. You know, universal rights to access these technologies and the benefits they deliver. So to try to come at 30,000 feet or this being Brazil, 30,000 meters, perhaps even higher, and look down at how these three themes connect. The environmental, social, and governance frameworks, the transparency and accountability that flows from those frameworks and principles that embody them, like the Ecuador principles, for example, like the environmental, social, and economic safeguards framework of my organization. All of these are connected through the enabling technologies of digital transformation. So I think that's a starting point. We need to work to ensure that the rights to those technologies and to those benefits are equitably distributed, particularly as we see in least developed countries and following the COVID pandemic. Inequity, the rising inequality is retarding billions of people from having that fair and equitable access to these benefits. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Great. I'm pretty sure we will get back to some of your insights. Alexandre, please.
Yes, I will start with the renewable energy. Agriculture is using renewable energy since the prehistoric era because of photosynthesis. We benefit from the growth of forages to produce high quality products from animal production systems. But usually in farms, you have different options. One of the most known is the windmills, and we have smaller. The Dutch windmills are famous, but we use wind energy and wind energy to pump water in farms, and so it's really an old technology, but now that there is new technology, much more efficient, that is very important. A lot of farms also can produce biogas by biodigestors. In case of livestock, if you have an intensive production system where you can accumulate manure, so you can generate electricity or heat by this accumulated methane that you can burn. There are also, especially in Brazil, that we have a more renewable energy matrix that is based on hydraulic generation and cogeneration by sugarcane mills that produce a huge biomass that is burned, and this energy goes back to the system, and it is every year it is harvested and burned. So it's important for our country. Related to connectivity, if I'm not wrong, last year the Brazilian Ministry of Agriculture mapped the access to internet in farms, and if I am not wrong, the number is 14%. 14% of the farmers have any or good access to internet. So this is too low. We need to improve this, and there are policies and programs running to make this better. Because if we talk about precision agriculture, agriculture 4.0 or 5.0, whatever, we need to connect the equipment, sensors, and we need to have this information connected in a center in real time. And this information has to be transformed in management practices, and you have to be fast to process this information and transform it back to the system to avoid any problem. So especially in Brazil, that is a large country, we lack on connectivity in the rural areas. We don't need to move to the Amazon or the Pantanal region. I am based in the center of São Paulo state, that is maybe the richest state in Brazil. Our research center at EMBRAPA is 4 kilometers from the city center, and we don't have any SMS or any company that provides mobile connection. There's no connection there. So we have our own Wi-Fi network in the farm that connects the feeding troughs, drinking troughs, ear tags, sensors in the soil, sensors from the weather. But it is our own home or institutional Wi-Fi net. We cannot connect. Yeah, intranet. Yes, we don't have. And then it is connected with another net, but we don't have this mobile access to satellites. So it is really a great opportunity to increase these connectivity in large countries and developing countries.
Thank you, Alexandre. Andrea, your time. Again, just to remind what the question was about. So how would a better access to cheaper, greener energy and better communications would affect your work on the social end?
Yes, listening Alexandre, that's why I said that we were in between São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. That's the most important cities in Brazil, and we have this situation without internet in the rural areas. So when we say social inclusion, we have to think about the digital inclusion, and this everybody needs to access information. Everybody needs to access the world nowadays, and especially people with disabilities. Is here in Brazil, they were in the most poor classes, the social classes, unfortunately, and the access is more difficult. So we need the international financials to make some projects to improve this access, this digital inclusion. And we need to have jobs to these people too, because it's especially in Brazil, it's the job for people with disabilities it's very, very difficult. We have some laws, but it doesn't work.
Sure, I understand.
Yes.
So, well, just for you guys to feel a little bit better, I don't think that is different in many other countries of the world. It's not just a Brazilian problem. Actually, in Silicon Valley, sometimes we have a very bad connectivity, right, Michael?
I haven't been home for a while, but we have good connectivity in Nairobi. I have to say, Kenya has been leapfrogging into the digital age with tools, particularly fintech tools. M-Pesa, famously, when M-Pesa was launched some years ago here in Kenya. M-Pesa is an online banking platform, a payment platform, but you can also save there. And when it was launched, there were about 1,000 outlets for doing banking services in all of Kenya, which Kenya now is a country of 50 million people, but I guess it was probably more like 40 million back in the days. And after M-Pesa was launched, there suddenly became 30,000 outlets, 30,000 points where everyone in the country could walk to a village and find a vendor and could do their e-banking transactions. So that's what I mean by leapfrogging. Now, connectivity is not universal by any means in Kenya. Nairobi is a privileged place to live, technologically speaking, but it is growing, and we're getting close to saturation. So it's very rare to find a Kenyan who doesn't have access to mobile telephony. I went hiking once in Machakos County in the Tana River Basin with a group of villagers, and there was a 4-year-old girl riding on the back of her grandma talking on her mobile phone. So, you know, it's amazing how these technologies are disseminated.
Yeah, regularly underdeveloped countries have more cell phones per person than developed countries. So it's amazing how technology is changing our reality all around the world. So after hearing you all, I detected some words that repeat. It's like accountability, traceability, digital access, right? So those are three main things that are coming back every time. And I saw a question also from public about how we can make a corporation ESG action be better, and I think it's highly related to accountability and traceability, right? So I'm pretty sure that if we get those ESG and SDG standards related to with digital inclusion and the inclusion of access to technology, energy, and communications, we can surely will be able to link ESG funds and corporations to this project that was one of my first statements when I started talking. How important you envision or you see transparency and accountability being to this reality changing? Is blockchain technology something Michael just raised, and EVShare is a blockchain organization, so I'm raising that too. Do you guys think that blockchain can bring, again, with connectivity and raising, the level of trust, and bringing a closer connectivity between money and better products, or customers, and the value of paying a little bit more for a product that is more or even safer or more sustainable, in your case, Alexandre, or a social project that is like live mode linked, and people can give their money to a project that they see how it's evolving and how people are being treated or whatever. So this traceability, this accountability, transparency thing, how important is this for a better ESG, social inclusion, carbon footprint, energy world, in your opinions? And that's whoever raises the hand first.
May I start? Because you started
Sure.
with, or you put blockchain in the center of this question on traceability and accountability. And I actually would like us to take a step back, and Alexandre gave us a good case study in the dairy industry with milk on, what is it we're trying to achieve here, and what is the trust entail in knowing if a product is low carbon, for example. So carbon footprint of a product would be one of the parameters that consumers perhaps would want to know when they're making choices in the marketplace. But I want to actually back up, because consumers are only part of the puzzle. Producers are a part of the puzzle, designers are a part of the puzzle, and financiers are a part of the puzzle. So if we go back to the question that one of our viewers asked, how do you motivate a company to institute robust ESG, to institute sustainability standards? Well, first of all, I mean, at the rock bottom, we don't have sustainability standards yet. We have reporting mechanisms, and we have some pieces of or parameters of what sustainability entails, but there is no agreed global standards attached to sustainability. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals have 169 targets. About a third of those targets are unquantifiable, so we don't know how to measure them, which makes them less than fully robust. But there is one global initiative to develop sustainability standards, and it is of the International Financial Reporting Standards Foundation to create a sustainability standards board. This proposal has been backed by a number of well-known individual standard-setting organizations, such as the Global Reporting Initiative or the Climate Disclosure Standards Board. And it's also been backed by the Special Envoy for the United Nations, Mark Carney, who's the Envoy on Climate Action and Finance. And it's no surprise that the effort to set sustainability standards, which would give us something we could really hang our hat on when we ask the question, is this company's product sustainable? Is this company's behavior sustainable? Is it tracking human rights and social inclusion? Is it satisfying our global norms, or is it violating them? We need to articulate these in ways that actors like companies and investors can hang their hat on, as I said. So they are measurable, so they are transparent, and they can be communicated and understood by decision makers, including consumers when they decide in the marketplace, but importantly, by people who make investment decisions, who analyze risks and need to understand if behaviors and processes, production, products, and so on, are they really directing us towards sustainability? And that's what this standards setting process that is proposed by the IFRS Foundation might lead us to. It has worked before. We instituted in the last decade accounting standards that have been adopted by more than 140 countries. And it was also the International Financial Reporting Standards Foundation that led that effort to get a kind of global standard on how accounts are drawn up and audited. So now we need to do that with sustainable development. So we have the metrics that can allow us to be confident about the investments and the purchases and the products that we live with.
Okay, so that's a question being repeated there from our viewers, and it's how companies or corporations can enhance their ESG investment. I guess they need to create their own department of ESG or something, or get related to an ESG fund if they don't have the ability of evaluating their projects themselves. There's already some good ESG funds that are collecting these ESG funds from corporations and creating investment trends. I still believe that is a way to go when you have nothing, but I guess we still lack a more direct platform to relate this ESG money to sustainable or ESG projects in their own communities. I believe companies should be investing in their own communities apart from their global trends. So there's another question there from Hernan, I think, related to China and the US renew their will to be greener or to go greener. The question is, do you think these are real or nice words to calm markets? In the case of China, the US, and Europe, that you're forgetting there, this time it's not only nice words, it's a lot of money. So just the US announced $1.9 trillion for a green economy. Europe is with a post-pandemic plan of $650 billion to the green economy, just $93 billion backing renewable energy and energy storage technology. So I guess this time is is something that is coming to stay. So it's not just marketing, speeches or political speeches. I'm pretty sure that countries like Brazil recently started talking about including the race to zero into the national policy, which is a comeback of the country to its tradition in environmental leadership. We need to believe that almost the whole environmental movement started in Rio de Janeiro. So I would say that Brazil has been always a leader in this, got out of that in some political, trouble, but now it's coming back, and that's a good news. I mean, apart from the world power countries, we have a Paris Agreement becoming binding in November this year, and this should also bring us some deeper insight or development of some of the things we are talking about. So, what do you guys think from your perspective? Is our corporations and governments in your areas of expertise? We have two Brazil here, so it's going to be about Brazil a lot. But we have Michael here with Africa, and I'll talk a little bit about what's going on in California. But what do you think is going on this end, on the environmental side and sustainability side? Is it for real now, or is still marketing or just a goodwill?
I can comment on that, Eduardo, because the European Green Deal and the farm to fork strategy that is directly focused on agriculture, and also the recent Biden's government statement or strategy for innovative agriculture, and also the movement on China. All these three groups, their decisions affect all the world. And in case of countries like in Latin America that produces a lot of food for animals, and we have our doubts on metrics. So what Michael said, there is an international sustainable standard being discussed. This is really important because the metrics, they can be used for good or for bad. If you consider carbon footprint, for example, depending on the way you calculate and depending on your interests, you can damage an international trade of soybean or maize or meat or whatever. So if we could have international standards or guidelines or I think guideline is the best word. This would be very good to standardize the indexes, and this will influence markets also. So it is really important. And related to the ESG finance, green finance, this is really important. But again, there are different companies, different banks discussing this. I'm also part of this discussion with some groups, and they don't have the same metrics and the same standards. So, okay, you can define your policy or your program, and you can follow it, you can audit it, and you can certify it, but maybe this is different of the system of your neighborhood. Maybe both are in the path of low carbon production. I'm not questioning this, but I think it's not positive to have different standards and different methods.
Do you guys think, because we've been passing through, national governments, global policies for a long time, right? Are we getting into a moment in which we should include more states and city governments into this type of actions? Do you think that it's time for the governments that are closest to people get more involved, so people can also be more involved? What's your vision about this, Andréa?
First, I would like to say that every economic decision affects directly the social decisions and the public policies. And we have here the 1988 Constitution that guarantees the people participation in the government, but it's not very useful yet because people doesn't know how to do this. And we have forums, we have some kind of groups in the public agencies, agencies, the public agencies, that people could be there and talk about it and discuss it with the principal, but they don't go. They don't know what to say. They don't know what they need. So that's what we try to do for them, like no governmental institution. And we participate a lot in the decisions, in the public policy, but we see that the economy and the social is very related, unfortunately.
Okay, so we have, I think, 8 minutes to the end of the panel. I would like to give 2 minutes each, and then including myself, to talk about what do you think would be a better way of increasing public participation. How we can involve communities in a more dynamic way, and if you have an idea, which would be the technology that would you use? Michael, please.
I will start by backing the comments about social inclusion and social performance. There is some new research coming out of Asia looking at corporate performance and ESG from 2005 to 2017. Thousands of Asian companies who participated and provided data points for this study. And the good news is that improved accountability, transparency, and stakeholder trust flowed from robust ESG structures and reporting. And at the same time, corporate performance tracked, it improved along with those robust structures of ESG. So the empirical question was, does it, is being transparent and accountable for your environmental, social, and governance performance benefit your bottom line and help your company's own sustainability, corporate sustainability? And the answer that came from this research is clearly yes. It's a virtuous circle. But moreover, when they looked at efficient allocations of resources in companies, they found that social performance makes the greatest contribution to the aggregate performance of corporate sustainability. So just coming back to the point about, is social inclusion, is public participation in governance, in review of governance, is transparent access to performance data that the public can evaluate and use and create feedback to the corporation, to the corporate sector. Is that useful? Does that actually help business? And the answer is clearly yes. It helps businesses be more sustainable. It helps them thrive. So that's good, solid empirical data that inclusion and participation and transparency and accountability all work hand in hand to support the sustainability of a company. How can we enhance that kind of participation and inclusion? And what kinds of technologies, you asked, would enable that? We've seen a lot of progress with blockchain. I knew we'd get back to blockchain eventually. Blockchain is the technology that creates the Internet of Trust. And that is burgeoning sector of ICT that is helping renew our faith in each other and the believability of what we're doing, even though we're communicating at a distance. So we've all gone through the shock of COVID and understanding that we're now more increasingly dependent on technology to communicate with each other. And we've seen a lot of the abuses that come from that, the fraud, the distrust, the negative information, anti-information, I like to call it. But with blockchain, we can rebuild the Internet of Trust. And so that's where I'm putting my bets currently on where progress will be made in the short term. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Alexandre, 1 minute and a half. Okay.
Okay. I'll be quick, but I agree that blockchain has a huge power to bring this trust in all this chain. If we consider, if we want to involve different people in a common purpose, the group need to find the cement or the amalgam to this group, to this purpose. And digital communication and connectivity is essential for this. And in the food production chain, if we want to produce sustainable food and eat sustainable food, we need this connectivity and we need this trust in all the chain. Thank you.
Andrea, please.
Well, I believe in digital access. I believe in the access of for information for everybody, and I'd say that these big companies want to do something for this kind of people, and we have a very good work, and we are transparent, and I believe that we can make a better world, like you said in the beginning. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, on my side, I'm not going to repeat what Michael said, but because I agree on much of what he said. I'm just going to say that the ability that blockchains brings us to make trust higher and accountability and being able to make possible that people participate with their votes in the decision making is good, as soon as we can provide a good and fair amount of information. So people start getting educated and their participation being more pertinent, I would say, and more and better for the social improvement. So I would say that's a little bit the challenge of being able to give a non-directed information, but all the information available, and make the case of each one of the options, so people can start and be educated to a more bold participation in the future of their own societies and their own communities. And I think that's a very exciting time, and again, very exciting moment. For what my clock says, our time has gone. I don't know, Anne, if you want to tell us if we have any more time or if we are done. If we are done, I will thank all the viewers and the participants of this panel. It was exciting to talk with each one of you. Hope to continue in touch and be able to interact and work all together in the direction of a better world, as I said in the beginning, as Andréa just said, which is, I think, the objective all of us have.
Thank you, Eduardo, and my colleagues, Andréa and Alexandre.
Thank you. Thank you all. Congratulations, Eduardo, for the moderation. You were precise on time. It was a pleasure to join this panel with you. I was curious, Michael, if there's any website for this Sustainable International Standard Board, if you can share with us. I don't know if we are still live or just in the private chat, but
surely it's
nice.
the website of the foundation that I mentioned, International Financial Reporting Standards Foundation, and they have a public consultation they undertook last autumn, November, December. You can read Mark Carney's input, as well as all the other inputs by stakeholders. The time frame for setting up a standards board, a sustainability standards board, is by 2025. So we have some time. And I see Hilton has made a comment.
Yeah, just thanking us all for the participation.
Thank you, Hilton.
Let me say
Thank
bye-bye. Thank you for everything. And thank you, Eduardo. You have a great connection between us.
Sure. Please, all of you, get in touch directly with me by WhatsApp. Let's keep the contact and to ensure that we can help each other somehow. Alexandre, com certeza a gente precisa conversar, então escreve para mim, por favor, não esquece. A Andréa também. Vamos tentar colaborar com vocês, tá bom?
Muito obrigada.
Okay.
Sorry about the Portuguese part of the speech, Mike.
It's okay.
But I was just making sure that they get in touch with me because we are having actions in the same country. And